Amen. Hey, good morning. We're beginning this new series, as Sandra mentioned, called LifeHACKS. And I realize for some of you, maybe you're not even sure what a life hack is. Webster's defines it this way: usually a simple and clever tip or technique for accomplishing some familiar task more easily and efficiently. And you can think about this, these have existed for a long time. It's not like, maybe someone came up with this, branded it this way, but, and maybe generations think about it differently. Some of you are thinking about kind of life hacks that maybe work with your technology. I remember as a brand new parent, trying to figure out, how to navigate a crying baby, and someone would say, "Oh, you just take their pacifier, you dip it in whiskey, and you just kind of, that'll take them right." And I'm pretty sure that's illegal, but that was a life hack. That was like a little trick or tip or something that will kind of get you through things. And so, if you type in the word life hack, this is kind of interesting. If you type in the word life hack into YouTube, you would get 6.5 million results. There are 6.5 million videos about different kind of life hacks. And some of them maybe are obvious, maybe some are not so obvious. So let me give you some examples of some current life hacks. For example, those of you who are parents of young kids, Justin and Ryan, this is for you. What do you do when you want to put Jude down for a bath, but his toys keep getting in the way? Well, this life hack, you put him in a laundry basket in the bathtub, and has anybody ever done this? I actually had one person so far today that actually admitted that they did this. I thought it's interesting but weird. But yeah, okay. What about, so you young people, Shauna, I know you don't have a lot of money to go buy a big speaker system, but how do you create a speaker for your iPhone that's going to bump and your sister's going to go like, what is going on? Well, you just get the toilet paper roll. When it's all done, you cut a little hole, you put your phone in it. I want to see a picture of you with your own little speaker stand, toilet paper speaker stand. Or this, it's back to school, so sometimes it's my responsibility to prepare lunch for my daughter. Usually, I feel pretty confident I'm not going to screw it up, but how do you appropriately put the pieces of meat on the sandwich where they don't overlap? Well, there's actually a life hack for it. You can actually cut it this way where there's actually appropriate. She is going to have the best sandwich of all the middle schoolers at Masuda tomorrow, guaranteed. So there's all kinds of things like this. But think about this. There's a lot of deeper issues than making the perfect sandwich. Issues in our life that we think about and we're looking for. We're looking for advice. We're looking for help. We could say probably, I think it's pretty fair to say, we're more stressed as a society than ever before. We see it in all kinds of layers and levels, from discouragement all the way to depression. We're struggling to try to figure out how to navigate real life. And one of the things that happens is we find ourselves dealing with the disappointment of where we're at and where we thought we would be. I just came back. I was at the men's retreat this weekend. We have a group of men that are up at Thousand Pines at a men's retreat. And some of these things, of course, are trivial that we worry about. I'm at the men's retreat. There's all these guys who apparently went to the gun show before they came because they're wearing their tank tops, and it's obvious that they've taken a lot of time. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not in very good shape. I'm seeing that and watching this. There are many times I felt they were going to take my man card away from me because I didn't really know how to throw a hatchet. I just kind of hid in the back, like, I hope they don't ask me to throw a hatchet. I have no idea what you do, which end you throw it from. So there's things like that, and I realize they're trivial. There's some stuff that we probably could admit it's a little bit neurotic, right? When I graduated high school, you only had to worry about what your life would look like every 10 years. Because in 10 years, you had to go back to your high school reunion and kind of show what your life looked like. And so you only had to deal with this once a decade, and I was at 3 decades. But now with social media, every day I have to worry about what my life looks like compared to all these friends that I really don't have a relationship with, but I want my life to look impressive to them nonetheless. And we know that, we feel that, right? But there are deeper issues, aren't there? There are deeper issues like I'll go in, my daughter goes to bed, I'll pray with her, and I can walk out of the room feeling like, am I the dad that I envision being? Am I really the kind of dad she needs? And there's ways that I can feel a level of disappointment of what I thought, what I dreamed, how it would look, and what reality is. I can feel the same thing with my marriage with Kimberly. 28 plus years ago, we stood in this building. I made promises to her. I made vows to her of who I would be in the years to come. And I think of all the ways that I have fallen so short of those things. And there's a disappointment that comes there. I think about my career and sometimes the choices I've made in my career and how it affects the team I work with and the people I work for. I think about the financial decisions that I've made that have stalled my family because I made a bad financial decision, and it's going to take years for us to get out of this situation. And all these things, these things that can create disappointment. And I'm trying to figure out, how does real faith and real life work together? And even that, my real faith, my life with God, I can be disappointed in. Think of, why is it now 28 years later of being a Christian, no, actually 36 years later of being a Christian, that I still struggle with certain things? That there are seasons where prayer and time with God feels great and easy, and other times it feels dry, and it's a task, it's a chore, and I'm supposed to be the one telling everyone how to do it and how great it is. And of course, there's a whole layer of stuff I'm not willing to tell you in front of a big group. But you know that too, right? There's some darkness. There's things that we don't even want to mention that we have to work through. And so there's this tension about life and disappointment. And so we're looking for things. We're looking for, whether it's a life hack, small or big, we're looking for things that will help us figure out, how do we navigate real life? And so we can look for these different tricks and tips and things like that. And the question we're asking is, in this series, is, could it be that the answer is faith, that there is something about a life with God, that God wants to speak into these areas in a way where it may feel like a small pivot, but over a long course of time, it makes a huge a difference in the destination. And so this series is one in which we're going to think about these very things. And so I'm going to invite you into a rhythm over the next 8 weeks. Here's the rhythm: SOAP, service, life group. SOAP, service, life group. So here's what I'm going to invite you to for the next 8 weeks. Here's what I think. I think you and I are trying to figure out, how do we navigate life? I want to invite you into a rhythm for 8 weeks. SOAP. SOAP is our, what we call here, it's just an acronym. It's actually a life hack. It's a way to study the Bible on your own. And so we invite you, in fact, in your bulletin, if you were to open up under that blank section, you'll notice there's 5 passages. I think the best way to do it is that you get the Beachpoint app in the App Store, and it says SOAP, and you just hit SOAP. And it says, what is SOAP? And you hit that, and it tells you what it is and how to do it, but it's just a way to read the Bible. And then it says readings, and you just find a day that you want it, you click on it, and it actually opens it right to the passage, and it keeps you focused on that very passage. So what we're inviting you to is a rhythm of trying to have some time alone with God during the week. There's 5 readings that we'll give you every week. Second, to be here, to be a part of the services, because I think you probably already felt it. There's something quite dynamic when we're together. And some of you will say this. You'll say, wow, it was like today was like aimed right at me. Like, how did you do that? And I want to say, because I've been spying on you. But that's not true. The truth is that actually what we think happens is, as you spend time letting God speak into your life, he starts raising stuff to the surface. We as a team are listening to God as well. And so God is just taking that stuff he's raising to the surface, and we are coming together and we're resonating together with his truth, or in a song or in an element or in the teaching. But there's something about being together and to know you're not alone in this. And so I want to encourage you, be here for the next 8 weeks. It's going to be important. But the last thing is to be in a life group. And if you have a life group, great. If you're not in a life group, you can go to beachpoint.com, and there's a scroll to the part that says life groups. You can fill out an interest page. If you're a parent here today and you drop your kids off here on Wednesday nights, we're going to have 3 to 4 life groups. We already have 50 people that have signed up to be in these life groups. you're only making a 9-week commitment. So this group will not exist in heaven. You don't have to panic. You're not making a lifetime commitment. You're just committing for 9 weeks to be together with a group of people who have this in common. We're parents. And we all have holes in our heads because we've pulled our hair out because of our kids. And so we relate to one another, and we're going to try to think about life through the lens of parenting. They're not groups about parenting, but because we're parents, we're going to find that, hey, we are all dealing with very similar stuff. So afterwards, if you want some information, you're going to go to that cart, the kids' check-in cart. Jackie will be there, and Kimberly, who work with our kids and family ministries, they will be there to help you. So this is the rhythm we're inviting you to. So let me give you a big idea, and what I'm going to do today is just introduce the concept and help us get going. So here's the big idea. God's wisdom can help you navigate life's biggest challenges. God's wisdom can help you navigate life's biggest challenges. This is what we want to see, is that we want to come at this approach that the creator of life knows something about real life. My hope is that you will find, what we want to do in the next weeks is this. I want Sunday to matter for Monday. I want when you get up on Monday and you have to tackle school and you want to have to tackle work and you have to tackle just life, that what we've done together is really going to matter. And so we want to listen to God's wisdom and understand how it helps us navigate the big challenges that we have in life. So I want to invite you to turn to Proverbs chapter 1. If you have a Bible, if not, I'll put it here on the screen. We don't have the Bibles in this room. We're here for a couple more weeks, and then we'll be moving back. But the Proverbs chapter 1 is what we're going to look at. And the book of Proverbs actually it's like a book of life hacks. If you're to read through it, you get all kinds of kind of quick advice on how to have friendships and how to avoid financial ruin and how to treat your spouse well and how to keep your spouse happy. I mean, there's all kinds of practical wisdom, kind of quick and fast. But in chapter 1, we see kind of the purpose of this book of wisdom. And the purpose of it is how it's going to sound like a father talking to a child or a parent talking to a child. And I want you to kind of see the purpose of God's wisdom in our life. So let's read this together. Starting in verse 1, chapter 1, it says this: the Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel. Here's the purpose: for gaining wisdom and instruction, for understanding words of insight, for receiving instruction in prudent behavior, doing what is right and just and fair, for giving prudence to those who are simple, knowledge and discretion to the young. And he says, let the wise listen and add to their learning. Let their discerning get guidance, for understanding proverbs and parables, the sayings and riddles of the wise. And then verse 7, this is the most important part that we want to focus on today. So here it is. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. And then let me give you a verse from Jesus. It's found in John chapter 10, verse 10. We'll come back to this at the end. Jesus said these words. He says, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. And I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. All right, with these words in mind, let's start with the words of Solomon. And Solomon begins with an instruction, and the instruction is this: that you need to increase your awe. Okay, increase your awe. And here's how we see it. He says that the beginning of wisdom and knowledge in life is the fear of the Lord. So that's a tricky line, right? So what does that mean? Do we treat God like a scary clown who hides behind your dresser? No, that's not what he means. So what does he mean by fear the Lord? Some of the ways that I've seen this described is this idea of a reverent sense of how awesome God is. His holiness, how magnificent, how glorious he is. One writer said it this way: it's less than terror, but more than wonder. And so I'm putting it in this phrase of increasing a sense of awe of who God is. Let me see if I can try to give 2 examples from creation and then see if we can apply it to the Creator. So let me give you 2 examples that I think might make sense to us. So what's one thing that we should have a sense of holy fear of? I would tell you the ocean. Okay, so the ocean is something that I love going to the beach. I love sitting. I love I pray I always live within 5 miles of the ocean. It's my jam, man. I love just sit there and just take it in. I relax that way. But we know this, you better have a reverent fear of the ocean. And we saw this last week. If you were at the beach and you got baptized at the beach, you know this, right? Because you got baptized like 6 or 7 times. Because we always plan baptisms in hurricane season. For some reason, I don't know why we plan it this way, but there's always some storm coming up from the south. So Justin goes to the lifeguard to tell him what's going on. The lifeguard says, please bring everyone near me. Why? Because there's a strong shore break that day. There's a strong current. And there's riptide. I want you right in front of me. Why? Because the lifeguard understands, has a reverent fear of the ocean. I really don't want to lose someone today. It's a big day for you guys. So we all moved towards the lifeguard tower. Now, we had like 300 people at the beach in our little group. So you got to understand, when 300 people walk slowly to the water, like we look like a weird cult, right? We're just kind of, I try to remind everyone, when you get to the water, stop. Don't just start walking into it. So we get there, and so I go in first, and I try to find I get there early, I try to scout an area as best I can, and then, so I go in first, I find, okay, I think is a safe place to stand. It's kind of beyond the break. We're gonna have to jump a little bit, but you won't the waves won't crash on you. And I'm trying to explain this story. We're gonna have two groups going on at a time. Justin and I got the bigger folks, the high school students up. Amy and others have, Brandon, they have the middle schoolers and the kids down. And I'm trying to tell them, you got to go out just a little further, because where you are is the crash zone. You are right where the waves are hitting. Pastor Amy got knocked down I don't know how many times, but everyone kept saying, oh, did you see how Amy got taken out? Like everyone thought it was the coolest thing ever. So we end that part, and everyone survived. And then 50 middle schoolers just take off into the ocean, and the lifeguard calls for backup. I can't watch all these kids in the water, so 2 other lifeguards come and are watching. There's 3 lifeguards watching our group. Why? Because they have a holy fear, a reverent fear of the ocean. And so 3 different times, a lifeguard had to go out into the water and tell our people, you're out too far. Twice, it was my wife. She was out there swimming around, and she's like, sees the lifeguard coming for her, and she starts swimming away, like, go away, I'm fine, don't embarrass me. He's like, you're too far, you got to come back in, I'm fine. She didn't have a reverent fear of the ocean. And so this is one way, right? We understand, that makes sense to us. You can appreciate it, you can love its beauty, but you also have to understand its power. Here's a second one. This is kind of a weird one, but lions. You should have a reverent fear of lions. Now, I have had the unique privilege of going on 4 safaris in my lifetime. The first one was when I was in college. I was in Africa on a mission trip. We got this kind of special opportunity to go on a safari. We're college kids. We're invincible. We'll never die. That's how we thought. And so at some point, my frame of reference for a safari was, most of you are too young, there was a thing called Lion Country Safari, okay? And so you got in your car and you drove, and Orange County jungle was around here. It was like over where Wild Rivers was back in the day. And so you saw possums run by and whatever it was, but you didn't really, we didn't really kind of know. So at one point, we convince our Jeep driver, can we get out of the Jeep? And he goes, yeah. I don't know why he said yes. He knew better. But we didn't. We did not have a reverent fear of lions. And we get out, we run about 50 feet out, we see a carcass that has been halfway eaten, which we realize someone's coming back for the other half of this at some point. So we frolicked right back to the Jeep, got in, locked ourselves in. That was the first time I realized you should have a holy fear of lions. They eat and they'll eat you. But I didn't learn my lesson. A couple years ago, I went back. I was in Kenya, and I got to go on this incredible safari. And they call our Jeep. They say, hey, there are lions in this part of the park. And so the guy says, do you guys want to go see it? Well, this is the holy grail. Have you ever been on a safari? Seeing a lion is like the holy grail of a safari. You don't see them. And so he drives the Jeep over. We get to the spot, and I kid you not, we pull up, and it's just laying there, like where Aaron here is on the corner. I'm just leaning out of the Jeep with my camera. I'm going to get like the coolest like face photo of a lion. I'm getting right up. I'm leaning up. As I'm taking these pictures, the hair on my arm stands up because a second lion walks right underneath me as I'm leaning over. Like it literally just walked right underneath me. And I just went, it's just like the life. If I've got 9 lives, I've got 7 left. Like I lost a couple right there. So just that moment was overwhelming. It could have, at any moment when it was coming, it could have just grabbed my head, pulled me out, and I'm tasty. Like, so I don't know why he let me go. I got plenty of fatty sections that would have been delicious, but he let me go. Here's my point. We know this, right? We have this sense that there are these things that we should have this sense of kind of reverence for. We should understand the sense of power that's behind them. We can appreciate the beauty, but also have this kind of sense of holy fear, of reverent fear. And if we feel this way about creation, certainly we should see this about the Creator. This is why every Sunday, as I tell you, I drive towards the beach. I want to see the ocean, and I want to be reminded that the one I'm serving today, when I look at the ocean, here's the biggest thing that can possibly be in my view this morning. And there's one who holds this all in his hand. There's one who can say to the wind and the waves, be still. There's one who can say to the shore, come this far and no further. And when I see that, there's a sense of awe in me of who he is and what I'm doing and who I am serving. And so there's something to this. And so A.W. Tozer wrote this line, and it's such a valuable line. He says, what comes into our minds when we think about God is the most important thing about us. If you have a high view of God, it's going to affect your worship, your trust, your obedience. And if you have a low view of God, it's going to affect your worship and your trust and your obedience, isn't it? And so Solomon writes, look, you've got a starting point. You have to fear the Lord. You have to understand. You have to approach him with the reverence that he deserves. Because the moment that you kind of humble yourself before him, then you can allow his wisdom into your life. See, it begins with understanding that there is a God and you're not him. And so it begins with this point. And I think one of the things that we see, one of the ways that we approach God with this sense of awe, one of the ways that we fear the Lord is Solomon's saying, notice what he's saying. He's using these words, listen. He's saying hear, and you'll see it all. If you read the book of Proverbs, you see it. He'd say it over and over again. And one scholar notes this. He says, the Hebrew word denotes more than a simple act of hearing. It implies obedience. When he says listen, when he says hear, he's saying you would be wise to do these things. And so a sense of fear of God is to say, I don't want to just hear what you have to say. I know it would be wise of me to do these things. And so key to these verses, what we see in these first verses, is this idea that of authority, like the king is speaking. And we should listen and we should do what he's going to show us we need to do. And so this is one of the key things that we want moving forward. See, the problem is in our culture right now, God's guidance, God's word, God's voice in our life is one of many voices. And you're being trained in some ways that there are all kinds of great voices, and God's is just one of them. But Solomon says you better understand something. You have to approach him with the sense of fear. Fear the Lord. Understand, have reverence for him, awe of him, wonder of who he is, but also the sense of his greatness, to be in his presence. There is this. We want this sense of understanding how important it is. Now, for some of us, what we recognize is this is a voice. This is good. We treat this kind of like the Pirates Code. Remember Pirates of the Caribbean? Captain Barbossa is trying to explain the Pirates Code. They're like, the Pirates Code, isn't this the Pirates Code? You got to live by the Pirates Code. And he goes, well, the code is really more a set of guidelines than actual code. right? And that's the way we can approach God's wisdom in our life too. We can say, well, this is a way of thinking, instead of approaching it with a sense of fear, of holy fear, of reverence, of awe, that he's speaking and that these things are important. In the Psalms, it says, long ago, I learned from your statutes that you established them to last forever. A statute is something, it means that it's not just in a time and place, but it lasts through the generations. There's wisdom of God that we hear, and the expectation, again, is obedience of all people for all time. So we don't just say, oh, that was good someday. This is the challenge for us. Is there ancient wisdom that is good for our modern lives? And I think we're going to see the answer is yes. So let me give you two quick life hacks. So if we want God's wisdom in our life, if we need to hear his voice, if we want to pay attention to him, here's life hack number 1. Schedule time with God. Schedule time. Now, I'm not saying have a time with God. I want you to notice the difference. I'm saying schedule a time. Things that are important in our lives, we schedule. So you want to look good. You want to be in good shape. So you schedule times to go to the gym, right? We want to be successful in our careers. We want to make a good living. We want to do this. So we schedule our work plans. We might schedule a degree program that will take our jobs to the next level. You guys as students, you schedule and prioritize your homework and things because you want to do well to get in a good college, to get in a good career, right? So there's things that we realize if we value it, we schedule it. You need fun. And so you make schedules to go on dates, to go surf, to go do things that you need to do because you just need to relax. Now, all these things that I'm talking about, none of them are bad things. They're good things. My point is simply this. Things that we value, we schedule. And so if we're going to approach God with a sense of, if Solomon's going to say to us, look, before you get started, if you don't approach God with a sense of, if you don't fear the Lord, if you don't respect him the way he deserves to be respected, if you don't honor him the way he deserves to be honored, I don't know if any of my words are going to make a dent on you. The things we value, we schedule. So I would encourage you, here's what I would say, make a recurring appointment. You got a smart device, put it in, 7 to 7:15. Soap. Schedule, you can do it right now if you want, on your phone. You can repeat daily. Set a reminder, and it will do this. But set a recurring appointment. Make a recurring appointment. Make it something where you can continue to meet. If it's important to you, you'll do this. This fall, there's a new rhythm. We're all trying to get a new rhythm. But here's what I know. I have recurring appointments with all kinds of people. Matt Lewis and I, our executive pastor, we meet every Wednesday at 2 p.m. I have other people that have counseling appointments. We meet I'm doing premarital with a couple every Wednesday at 9:45. And so when someone else asks for that time, I simply say, I'm sorry, I already have an appointment. Is there another time? I've never once had anyone say to me, but what are you doing? And is it more important than what I want? Everyone respects my calendar. Everyone respects my schedule. No one says that. And people will respect that too. Someone says, hey, can we get together? You know what? I'm sorry, I already have an appointment. You're 14, how do you have appointments? Well, because I do. I'm that good. So schedule time with God, make it a recurring appointment. Here's life hack number 2. Do life with God in airplane mode. Now, however you want to do this, literally, you can put your phone on airplane mode, or you just you understand the concept, right? It's no distractions, no notifications. So the hazard today was, I actually was going to hold my phone and use it for some examples. Well, usually I try to keep it on airplane mode, or I keep it with me for emergencies, but keep it on airplane mode. Otherwise, I have so many distractions. So we sing, you have no rival. You have no equal, except, beep. Oh, set your fantasy football lineup. Oh my goodness, I forgot. Hold on a second. I've got verse of the day. Do you want to be friends with this person on Facebook? I've got literally like 19 things so far this morning. And they're all different things, all different notifications. Here, we're so busy. We're so distracted. Get if you're going to fear the Lord right, honor him, give him space. Let him speak into that time that you're going to have. Put your life on airplane mode, whatever that looks like. If you're in the rotary dial phase of life, just take the phone off the hook and get away from the sound. So let me end with this. Here's why. Here's why these things are important. Jesus doesn't want to turn your life upside down. What he wants to do is he wants to turn your life right side up. So you may be entering into this a little nervous about what God may say to you about how life is going. And I want you to understand, if you listen to Jesus clearly, he is not looking to turn your life upside down. He wants to turn your life right side up. Most of us just don't realize that we're flying upside down. Listen again to his words. His words are this: the thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. See, many of us are trying to live life. We're just trying to do it, navigate life with the wrong map. I was reading about some explorers trying to explore the North Pole. And in 1879, there was a lieutenant, George DeLong. He set out to discover the North Pole. He had a crew, he had a ship, he had all the preparations. The problem was he had a faulty map. And the problem with his map was his map assumed that the top of the world, that the North Pole was an open sea. And so every time they ran into a problem, they held firm to their conviction of their map. And they'd try to fight through. They'd hit these places of ice, and they'd try to fight through it. And eventually what it led to was the mission failed, and a number of their crew died, including the captain. Fast forward 30 years, and a second explorer also set out, Frederick Cook. He actually became the first man to reach the North Pole, and the reason was he used a different map. Instead of the assumption that it was an open sea, he had concluded that the map was built on the assumption that there was ice, solid ice. And so they were able to navigate differently. And so you think about these two teams. They both had passion to explore. They both had instruments and they had resources. They had all kinds of things. The biggest difference was this: they had different maps. One had the right map and one had the wrong map. And I want to encourage us as we think about this, as you're about to navigate life, do you have the right map? Do you have the right map? Because here's what the writer is saying. There's wisdom. God has wisdom for you if you'll follow it. And Jesus says to you, I am here for you. I want to give you life. I want to give you abundant life. I want to give you full life. That's what he's saying. And friends, can I say this? Jesus has demonstrated that he is worth our trust. When he would speak, the people were like in awe of him. They're like, who is he? Who is he? He speaks with such authority. They realized his wisdom was beyond any other teacher of that time. But beyond his wisdom, there's a dynamic of his love. Because Jesus, remember, as they came finally for him, the leaders that were fighting against him, they came for him, and they were going to arrest him, and his friend Peter wanted to fight for him. And he told them no. He said, if at any moment I wanted to stop this, I could. And what we begin to understand is that Jesus, no one ever took his life from him. Jesus gave his life for us. Jesus allowed them to take his life. He was giving his life. He was giving his life as a sacrifice for us. He has demonstrated to you how deep his love is for you. It's not only that he's wise, his love is beyond our comprehension. But if he was just a wise teacher, and if he was just a martyr that we can look at, there are others, right? There are other great wise martyrs that have lived life that we could learn from. Here's the difference. Jesus isn't in the tomb. The tomb is empty. Jesus has raised from the dead. He is alive, and he is with us. And there's an authority and there's a power that goes with him that is unlike anything else that you can take into your life. And so this simple idea has really helped me over the last 5 years. I came to tell myself these three things. Bill, I'd hear this. Bill, I am for you. I am for you. I have given my life for you. And I know this. I know that despite the fact that I'm a sinner, that he has died for me. He is for me. And Bill, I am with you. I have promised never to leave you or forsake you, and I have told you I will be with you till the very end. And so if he is for me and he is with me, the conclusion I've made is he's the best person to guide me. He's the best voice to guide me. I am for you, I am with you, and I can guide you. And so this is my encouragement for us in the weeks ahead. So here's the challenge. It's 8 weeks. You can do anything for 8 weeks. I was watching a TED Talk, and a guy, he's kind of a funny guy. His whole TED Talk, these little talks, about 20 minutes long on different topics. And his talk was, you can do anything for 30 days. And I found it fascinating because he was doing all these like crazy things. So I started telling myself that, yeah, you can do anything for 30 days. And I started thinking, and I started doing some of the things I'm still doing 2 years later. But I started with, you can do anything for 30 days. I'm going to push you a little further. It's 8 weeks. It's just 2 months for us together. Be in this rhythm. Soap, service, life group. Be here for 8 weeks. For the next 8 weeks, make an appointment with God. Listen to him. Watch what happens. See if something comes out of that. Get in a life group. And if you're not in a life group yet, let us help you find one. For the next 8 weeks, see if something different comes out of this. And I think for some of us, we love to put a streak together, right? You kind of get going on something, and the momentum, once you're starting to do it, it's kind of like you get a little obsessed by it. I heard this, Jerry Seinfeld, this great comedian, they asked him, how do you write all these, how do you come up with all these jokes? And so he has a calendar on his wall, and he says, every day I have to write a joke. And once I write a joke, I go over to the calendar and I put an X on that day. And so it's like I can't get through the day until I put that X. So he's disciplined to keep working at it. And there's something to learn from that. There's something about being committed to something. I have these rings on my watch. Some of you do too. And I get a little weird about it because I'm like 240 straight days of closing it. Like my watch died last night. I had to charge it and still have to have 20 minutes of doing, like, walking around the neighborhood, like, doing that because I have to keep the streak alive. So for 8 weeks, let's keep the streak alive. Let's see what he does. And let me end with this. I want to give you a vision of this. Not only is this going to be good for you, this is something Pastor Justin said to his boys a little while back, and it caught my attention, and I wrote it down. He said, how do you think missing or ignoring God's path has not only hurt you, but hurt others? And I thought, man, it's so wise. It's so wise that this season is not just good for you. This season is good for the people, the most important relationships you have, those people that you radiate and do life with. So let's pray. Let's pray for this. And we're going to close with a final song in just a moment. But I want to invite you to this. To offer yourself, to say, hey, Lord, for the next 8 weeks, I want to commit myself to learning from you, to following you, because you have life, abundant life, eternal life, and I want to learn from you. Take a second to pray, and then we'll close with the final song.